a guiding principle among the world's shamans, those old healers of indigenous civilizations. And that principle is that you cannot be fully healed until you yourself have helped others heal. And tonight I'm going to take you on a journey of how that principle has become the foundation upon which everything in my life has been built. It started for me in January 10th, 2005. That was the night that my mother came to my college residence and spoke the words to me that would change my life and the way I looked at it forever. She came to my residence and informed me that that day my father had taken his life. And those words, combined with everything that I had to see and hear that night, led me down a path of mental and emotional torture. Heavy guilt, shame, and a path of self-destruction that I would perpetuate for years to come. Because you see, I did it wrong. I did everything that I could not to feel, to block out the pain like it didn't even exist. But of course, that only led me down a darker road as I soon realized that what we resist really does persist. And of course, eventually it all caught up to me. And I began to regard life as a form of punishment, something to be endured. And it wasn't long before I started praying and wondering how much longer I would have to deal with it. But of course, life for me wasn't over yet, and it seemed that someone else had much bigger plans for me. Because in early 2008, something happened to me that even to this day I can't really explain, but I can only attribute to divine intervention. I had a chance meeting with someone who happened to be a spiritual counselor. Kind of funny, considering at the time I was obviously anything but spiritual. You know, that meeting only lasted an hour, but the shift that happened within me was indescribable. That heavy weight, that pain that I had been carrying for so many years, in that hour was gone. Just like that. I couldn't believe it. I still to this day can't explain it. But after that meeting, I knew that things in my life were about to change and change quickly. But more than that, you know, I wasn't really sure 100% what happened in that meeting, but I knew whatever it was, that was what I wanted to help create for other people. And so with my newfound ambition, I started the new mission for my life, to help people like my dad so they and their families didn't have to experience what mine did. And within a few short months of setting that intention for my life, I found myself volunteering on a crisis line. Now, I knew what I wanted to accomplish with that work, but nothing could have prepared me for how that work was about to change me. Looking back, still amazes me that every day I would sit in this little office, the phone would ring, I would answer it, and on the other end would be a complete and total stranger in the darkest moment of their life. Reaching out, trusting me with the most fragile parts of themselves in the hopes that I could provide them with some relief just by listening. Who'd have thought? You know, to suggest that being fully present with someone at a moment when they are seriously considering ending their life is humbling would never do that experience justice. You know, those moments for me became sacred. I have never experienced connections with other human beings that are so real and so honest. No filter, no editing, just life and humanity in its rawest form. And those moments became my oxygen. Because it was in those moments that I realized that if I wanted a happy life, if If I wanted a full life, then it had to be about more than just me. But what those callers would never realize is that those calls actually worked both ways. Because you see, I was still harboring a lot of anger and judgment towards my father for what he had done and the pain it caused our family. But each time I answered that call, and I was confronted with another person's suffering, I began to understand a little bit more how hopeless life really was for him. And the more familiar that I became with his pain, the closer to him I started to feel. And that feeling of closeness, with it came great compassion. And the anger that I had felt towards him for so long finally began to melt away. Because it's pretty hard to sit in judgment of someone you love when you finally grasp how dark life really is for them. You know, each one of those calls brought down another wall that I had put up around myself and awakened me to the realization that the only thing that entire time that had been standing between me and peace was me. And it was that realization that paved the way for me to tremendous personal freedom. And what that freedom has allowed me and is allowing me to create is incredible. Because life isn't over for me yet. You know, as I continue to grow and evolve, I get to help other people do the same thing. And so now I tell myself, you know, maybe I went through hell so that other people don't have to. And that is what those old healers meant when they said that in order for us to find healing, sometimes we have to help others heal. But you know the most ironic thing about the whole situation is those callers in the darkest moments of their lives, when they felt they had nothing left to live for, were actually breathing life back into another human being. And helping me to create a mission and a movement that I know is going to alter the course of so many people's lives. You know, I am forever indebted to every single one of those people who, at their most fragile, when they had everything to lose, had the courage to pick up the phone and trust that the young man on the other end who was hurting so deeply could help keep them safe for even just one more day. Thank you.